So
Mike is up. So anyway, thanks everybody for being here. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Becky, would you call the roll?
absolutely. Jim Sheeline.
Here.
Arlen McLean. Doug Farster.
Here.
Rick Humphrey.
Here.
Tom Kitson.
Present.
Larry Mamini.
Present.
Okay, did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes? Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes. Moved by Kitson, second by Humphrey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. All right, so around the room, Mike Copine, you got anything for us this morning? All right, Marilyn Shippert.
Franco, what you doing?
Oh, that's good. I'm always glad to keep somebody's keeping us straight. Nancy Peterson, do you have anything for the cause?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Paula Meyer, I'm not even gonna call on you because you've got half the agenda. Jack Strodstad.
Just here to observe it.
All right, glad to see you, Jack. Jennifer, what do you got for us?
I believe Wendy's going to talk a little bit about the GIS contract that we're looking into pursuing, and Carmen and I are just here to support that.
Very good. Carmen, do you have anything? All right, Wendy, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I have a number of items on the agenda as well, but something that's not on the agenda that I'll just give a quick report about is the ARPA strategic planning meeting we had. Most everybody in the room was able to be at that meeting, except I see Doug wasn't able to be there, so we missed you. We missed you. But a quick update on that. First and foremost, I think to just reiterate that the point of that meeting wasn't to make any final decisions on ARPA, because we have an ARPA committee and a process in place to do that. Rather, we were just looking for some consensus on the part of the board so that we as staff could decide where we should devote our time and energies to. We have a pretty clear direction of that. And just to give you a heads up on what those were, we had at the end of the strategic planning conversation in which we analyzed strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We did ask for a straw poll, and in the straw poll, what came back as at least our initial priorities is 5 things, which I'll just name for the record: assistance to small businesses, tourism, travel, and hospitality; assistance to households using local service agencies as a conduit to get to those local households; job training programs was a top priority; technology improvements to the county board meeting rooms, which we'll be talking a little bit more about later today on your agenda; and then last but certainly not least, improvements to broadband infrastructure. Those were the top 5 priorities. Again, I'm going to reiterate that all this did was give us a direction as staff as to what to start focusing on and to start getting some of the administrative processes in place. Nothing is off the table. We did examine about 20 different ideas. Nothing is off the table at this point, but at least we have some marching orders on what to prioritize and work on initially. I will take any questions anybody may have about that topic. Otherwise, that concludes my report, Jim.
I have a question.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm going through the packet.
Somebody said a question.
I have a question. Me.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Are you gonna get feedback from any of the board members that weren't able to make it last week?
I actually sent out an email to everybody that was not able to be in the room last week, and I did request that feedback. At this point, I've had one person respond back, and I had a second person that was having a little trouble opening the file, so I know he's working on it. I haven't heard from the others as of yet. But yes, that would be my goal, is to get feedback from those individuals that were not able to be there.
Very good. We'll turn to the Zoom, everybody that's online. We got Andy Shaw. I'll start from the bottom and work up. Andy, do you have anything for us?
No, thanks. I'm just observing here for the CPACE part of the conversation. Thank you.
You bet, Andy. Amy Johnson.
Good morning. I have
morning.
nothing at this time. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, Amy. Anna Marie.
Actually, I'm also here regarding the CPACE. I'm representing the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority this morning.
Sure. Okay. We'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
You bet. Seema.
Good morning, everyone. I am from Chapman and Cutler, bond counsel to the county, and also here to talk about PACE.
Super. All right. Good morning, Seema.
Good morning.
All right, one thing that I saw that I missed, we have the two minutes from the special, maybe they're both unapproved, and I forgot to ask for the approval of those minutes. So we have the Finance Committee minutes. Let's see. Wait a minute. Okay, Special Finance Committee budget meeting from September 9th, and we need to approve those.
So
Moved by Kitson, seconded by Humphrey. Jeez, you guys are tough on me. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approve. Okay, motion carried. All right, that's just the two, right?
At the regular meeting, no, I got September 15th too.
Oh, we got September 15th. Oh, there it is. I thought there was, I saw it. Okay. All right, then we also have the Special Finance Committee budget meeting from September 15th. Any additions or corrections on that? Hearing none. All those or motion to approve the minutes.
Slow move.
Moved by Mimini, seconded by Forrester. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, those opposed, motion carried. All right, thanks, guys. All right, Treasurer's Financial Monthly Report. Go ahead, Paula.
So you have that in your packet, plus you also have the quarterly one. I'm going to look at the quarter one. Actually, I'm just going to look at the year-to-date numbers on the quarterly one. I think
Okay.
they're more valuable personally. So yeah, I don't know if you guys, you're in there. I think they're on the top of what you should have received in your packet. So compared to budget in the general fund, everything is going well. For the most part, all of the expenses in most of the departments are within their budget. There's about 25% of the year left as of this date. And most people are pretty close to that. The big changes or the things to note are actually in the revenues, and we are, as we've discussed in the past, we're over in sales tax. Income tax is coming in very strong this year. Not particularly sure why that is the case. It seems a little counter to what's been going on in the last year and a half here, but we have got more money coming in, and of course, then the zoning fees have thrown everything way over the top. So, and then there is some more pages with kind of your revenues and expenses for your other, what I'm going to call board funds, where solid waste, public safety, highway, health, animal control, road construction items are in here, and they're all actually, trending just fine so far this year too. So I don't see anything to be particularly concerned about.
Questions for Paula?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Larry.
On the third page, the COVID revenue and expenses,
That's actually from the CARES money.
we already spent that money. It's already gone.
No, that was from last year. I think we need to actually get rid of that page because that was from the CARES grant from a year ago.
Okay.
And it rolled over into this year. But yes, all that money got spent and then some actually. You can see there's $122 that I've got to move out of there and charge to somebody else.
Thank you.
But the art money, well, we can add the art money now, I guess. I'll make a replacement statement and put the art money in there now.
Any other questions for Paula? Thank you, Paula. And go ahead. You want to do the quarterly report?
Well, that was kind of actually up the quarterly report. It doesn't
Don't
really
have
change
anything
anything.
further?
Yeah,
Okay, so we do have the
but you need to take a
form
vote on that
signed.
one.
So I'll pass that around.
Yeah, I think you actually have to call for a motion to approve or
Correct.
to accept the quarterly report, and then y'all need to sign that.
Correct. All right. Entertain motion to
Slow
accept the
move.
quarterly report. Mimi's right on it. Moved by Mimini, seconded by Kitson. All those in favor, any discussion? Hearing none, second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Did Wendy, did you hear back from Kevin? Or did somebody Okay,
I did not talk to Kevin as to why he wanted to be on here. I do know that he was interested in and involved in some of our PACE conversations, so I'm not sure what his point was of being on the agenda.
actually, I can inform you on that. I ran into Kevin. We just got talking about, what the county can do for LCIDA, and he says communication. I said, well, we've got finance committee coming, so come on in. And so I think, Becky, you sent him the agenda and all that. Did you hear back from him? Did you happen to hear back from him? All right. He must have had something come up. So, all right. Sorry, Kevin. What's that? Yeah, that's probably true. Okay. Insurance committee report. Mr. Humphrey, do you have anything for us?
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Redco, there.
Just a couple of general stuff that you guys been hearing throughout the whole time. The Project Jackpot will finally start at the beginning of January next year, or this coming year. They will employ about 150 people. And that's in the Poncherio buildings. I know it doesn't pertain a lot to Lee County, but it's been talked here, so I like to, just an update. And then Rochelle will build a new intermodal next year also. So that, I think that's good news because that is gonna push into Lee County.
Yep.
Where that industrial area is north of Stewart.
2,000 acres worth.
Yeah. The intermodal, no, not the 2,000 acres
Well, it
industrial
opens
area.
up the development for 2,000 acres.
That's all I have.
All right, thanks. Lynn. Okay, monthly resolutions. We got 3 Joseph Meyer resolutions. Nancy? Is that yours? Who takes care of those? Anything out of the ordinary for those? Just need a motion. Only if there's something, just as long as there's nothing unusual about them. Okay. All right, entertain motion, move those on to executive. Man, Lyram's on fire this morning. Motion by Memini, seconded by Kitson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Dishes.
Do we sign? We don't have anything to sign for those.
We don't sign anything.
Not for those.
We have to sign anything for that?
Executive.
Executive. Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine, Tom. Any old business? Anybody have any old business? Morning, Mr. Nicholson. Did you have anything before we move on? Did you have anything? Okay. All right, hearing no old business, new business. Ooh, the biggie. Would the treasurer like to speak to the budget?
It's done.
Yeah.
You have the version that is going to be put on file next week. No, we've had conversations about, what's in there and the changes. So there's, or, any updates that we've had. So no, I really don't have anything new to say about it. Do you have anything new to say about it?
I'm all good.
I think we're all tired of it, aren't we?
I
I am.
It's always a relief when we get to this point, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. Any comments from the committee? Anybody wants to tackle? Hearing none.
It is
I'll-
balanced. Still balanced.
Still balanced. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for the committee to move this to executive. Moved by Forrester, seconded by McLean. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, all those opposed, motion carried. All right, good job, guys. That was a lengthy and difficult process, as it should be. And I think we had really good discussion and it's there's always things that in a budget that you know, you'd rather see a little differently, but overall, I thought we produced a good product. Okay. All right, next is the tax levy. Everybody have a chance to look at the levy? Anybody have any discussion points, things they want to bring up about the levy?
I do.
Oh, good job, Wendy. Go ahead.
So if you can refer to or find your document that's labeled 2021 tax levy for fiscal year 2022, it's going to look a little different than it has looked in past years. I want to draw your attention to the fact that the corporate fund levy went from in 2020 3.8 million to 6.2 million. No, we didn't spend that much money in the budget. That had to do with, if you recall, the consolidation of a number of individual levy line items into the corporate line item. If you recall, we have a much more flexibility in the corporate line item to disseminate money down to those individual line items versus the other direction. So in addition to those line items that we consolidated, and you're going to know which one those are by the zero amounts, in addition to that, at your last finance committee meeting, you made a decision to reallocate a large portion of the health department's levy into, again, the corporate or general fund, because once again, you have the latitude of taking it from corporate and giving it back to the health department, but you can't go the other way. If you recall, the reason we decided to do that, or you all decided to do that, was the opportunity to fund through ARPA salaries, including the health department salaries and benefits. And by doing so, that would free up some of the general fund revenue for other county projects. Now, that was presented the other day at the ARPA discussion, and it was not, as you recall from my earlier conversation, identified as a top priority. I also want to remind you, though, nothing's off the plate. So moving forward, what's proposed in this levy is that we are still moving forward with the concept of levying through the corporate fund for a large portion of the health department's levy. And then again, with the understanding that if ARPA doesn't fund their salaries, that we then reallocate that money back at the appropriate time, once we know what's going on with ARPA. The other large thing that I think is critical to this year's budget, to give you an idea, to contrast and compare, last year, thanks to wind energy projects, we brought in $34 million of new construction. This year, my estimate's more like $3.5 million of new construction. So the additional revenue from property tax is greatly diminished over the prior year. In this year, we had no solar, no wind projects. So we only had the normal new construction, which is houses, pole buildings, et cetera. So our new construction is dramatically down. That will change again for next year because we've got a repower project going on that'll be coming on next year. We've got a solar project that'll be coming on next year. But for this year, we were very limited in the amount of additional requested funding we could get out of property tax. As we've always done, this levy request is reflecting a larger than anticipated revenue stream from property tax. The concept has always been, we don't want to leave money on the table, because at the time I prepared this report for you, the assessments were not finalized. They're still not finalized, and they won't be until February. So this is an estimate. And because it's an estimate, we always estimate on the high side for the levy request. So it's high, but it's dramatically lower than it would have been last year because of the lack of new construction this year. So with that said, on page 2, the actual levy ordinance is before you. If anybody has any questions regarding that, I'd be happy to address those.
So when you say that you estimate high, Wendy, typically what is the percent? I mean, do you aim for a percentage, or
right?
How do you do that?
So property tax extension limitation law, which we're under, of course, it says that you can levy as much as 5% or the consumer price index, whichever is lesser. The consumer price index for this year is 1.4, right? 1.04. So very, very little, and new construction is very little. So a high estimate might have been something in the neighborhood of 2 to 3%, which is what we looked at when we estimated or made this levy request, because that's what you're doing. You're essentially requesting how much funding do you want from property tax? So I think where we ended up was something in the neighborhood of 3%, but I'm anticipating that it'll only be about 2%. And when we know for sure what that will be, once everything's finalized from, the assessments and the process the clerk's office goes through with extension, then the board will be in a position of having to decide, okay, we didn't get the amount of money that we thought we were going to get, where do we cut it from? So that decision will be something we'll have to make going forward.
Okay. Harlan.
I don't know if it'd be appropriate at this time, but I was really surprised we're trying to prioritize grant money. I mean, it's real early. They've just had 2 meetings and I wasn't able to attend the last one, but that's relevant with that. But trying to prioritize, because I thought there was still some things that we had talked about privately that would be included in that least to rank. So I don't know when we discussed that, but I just wanted to make sure, 'cause I was surprised.
Yeah, I think that conversation is going to be ongoing before it comes, and ultimately that has to come
The
come
Wendy
here.
said the thing with health department didn't make the top 5 or whatever the thing was, and I don't think we should, and we have to review it then. So I'm not sure that it should be in the top 5, below 5, anything at this point until we see everything on it. That was premature.
Right. And I think that discussion, that first glance was, as Wendy has talked about, was more of a, what the straw, whether you want to call it a straw poll or, testing the wind and the appetite of the different things. So
Am I correct in the assumption that we will not be making priorities with that except for indications of what we should look at?
well, I think
Marlon, you missed my little speech that I gave early on. Yeah, the bottom line is you're exactly correct in that this straw poll was intended to, point us in the right direction about where we start. Nothing is off the table at this point. It needs to, every one of the projects we talked about the other day needs to be further vetted. We need to know better indication of what the costs are going to be and the financial impacts. So nothing is off the table. This is just, where do you want us to get started?
I just thought your previous comment when you're talking about the health department levy and things like that will happen, whatever, we're gonna have to make a decision. And so
You're right. We need to
I
vet
thought
that.
That was making a decision that we weren't gonna do that because it was not in the top 5.
Nope, nothing's off the table.
any other questions about the levy? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to move the levy to executive. Moved by McLean, seconded by Kitson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Okay, Paula, do you want to take C?
Yes. So back several months ago, the Finance Committee sent out an RFP, a request for proposal, to some audit firms because last year was our final year on a 3-year contract with Whippley. So we did get a lower bid from Lauterbach and Amann. Unfortunately, it's come to my attention now that we probably can't use them. We can't use them because there's a conflict. They do actuarial work for the county. Sorry, city, county. They do actuarial work on our retiree health insurance program. So because they are a consultant to us, they cannot do the audit. So I think we're gonna have to pass by them if we're gonna hit by those ethical standards that the accounting world has set up for itself, and go to the next highest or the next lowest bid, which would be Whippley again. And it is a little bit more expensive. I do want to throw in there though, I was having a really hard time getting a contract from Lauterbach and Amen that outlined exactly what they were going to cover. Their proposal was very vague. While their dollar amount was lower, it didn't actually list all of the things in their proposal or in the contract that they sent us on what they're going to cover. The other two audit firms sent in, yes, this is going to cover the audit, it's going to cover the circuit clerk audit, it's going to cover the data reporting, it's going to cover the commissary audit. There was a number of different things, and I couldn't get Lauterbach and Amen to actually edit their contract. So I was a little concerned because they were so much lower than the other two. The other two were pretty close. They were so much lower that we were going to end up having extra fees thrown in saying, well, we really didn't agree on this, so we want to charge you for this, we want to charge you for that. So I don't know that this change is necessarily going to be any more of a financial burden than Lauterbach and Amen was going to be, given that I really couldn't get them pinned down on rewriting that contract.
So Paula, didn't it strike you, after you let me know that this was going on, it occurred to me, why would an accounting firm that the whole point is to be thorough and detail oriented, that they wouldn't know this right off the bat why would they even bid?
So I'm wondering, I didn't actually ask them about this. I'm wondering if they feel like there's just enough of a separation between that small piece of consulting and providing actuarial services for that small piece, that was enough of a division that they wouldn't be, that they could still be impartial. So all of that kind of came about. Actually, I think it was originally from Sarbanes-Oxley after the whole Enron and WorldCom and all that kind of stuff crashed. They passed a bunch of regulations that you can't have somebody doing both things. And I'm guessing Lauterbach and Amen is looking at this as this is separated enough. But I don't know that it technically is. No, I don't remember. I don't know.
I'm going there.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah, I don't remember. I have to dig into that.
Yeah, Doug, you need to be in your mic. You're outside your mic, sorry.
I sure am. Sorry about that, Jim. So I say, I'm just curious I don't know if it picked it up, what their consulting fees were for managing the others, and if they'd be willing to give that up to have this other contract.
Mhm.
Basically saying, okay, would we rather take the 150, 60 versus a few thousand for the other, but if they're not being upfront, showing their cards, it's
Right.
fine anyway. But just whenever you're talking, we're talking substantial amount of money there.
Right. Well, on the face of it, it's
Well, yeah, that's what
basically
I'm saying.
$50,000.
Exactly.
The difference in the.
30% cheaper.
Yeah, that's significant. Go ahead, Rick.
So is it a requirement to have a 3-year contract, or? I guess the reason I'm asking is.
No, but
If we feel like we need to go with Whipley for this first year, why couldn't we look at rebidding it for the following year and see if we can't get some more firms or a cheaper price and just.
I don't know that you're going to get more firms. There's just not that many out there that do government
I'm
work.
just saying, the concern is, we are quite a bit of difference, and maybe in between that time, this other outfit, can cut ties with whatever they're doing and rebid it. And
I could talk to Whipley about doing a 1-year extension.
that's just a thought. It's not gonna hurt nothing. We're already.
And then,
higher.
yeah, you could rebid it next year.
So
That would also give us,
there's a vague thing, and I can't, isn't there a requirement that you can't have the same auditing firm for more than 3 years in a row?
No.
There was not, you can have, I was thinking,
Some
maybe
places-
that was just
Some places
policy.
do that because they make it a policy
Make it
that
a
they
policy.
feel like it,
And I think that's good policy, because you get entrenched with a particular outfit and
Mhm.
I don't want to point to specific instances, but bad things tend to happen. So, anyway.
Yeah, I could talk to them about a 1-year extension and then we can relook at this next year. And I guess if we wanted to go with Lauterbach going into the future, we'd have to find another actuary then.
So doing that, having said that, you want to defer this until next month after you
Yes.
have that conversation?
Yes, yes. So if you want to just, I don't know, table it, I guess.
Make a motion to table it.
I'll second.
Motion by Humphrey, second by Forrester. It's non-debatable. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. It was tabled. Yes.
Did we vote on that?
No. Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Yeah, we had awarded it to, we had approved and,
So we're gonna have to go back and withdraw that motion.
oh, that's a good question. What,
Charlie, Robert, I mean, rules order, if we've
did we,
approved one of these people to be our auditor, and now
Right.
we're coming back saying we want to have somebody else, don't we have to?
boy, that's
change
right.
That motion somehow?
Because did that get to the full board? Yeah,
No,
No.
it only went through you guys.
through us. Okay, Charlie?
Yeah, so if it went to you guys and you didn't approve one at this point, then
They,
The one we did approve.
they approved an auditor back in July. They approved Lauterbach and Amen. And since then, we've had a little issue with getting information and stuff. So this proposal was to change it from Lauterbach and Amen. This motion that I wrote up is to change it from Lauterbach and Amen to Whipley instead, but they've tabled that potentially just to extend the Whipley contract for one more year, rebid everything out next year.
okay, so you would need to have a motion to vacate the prior approval of the auditor. I would probably.
Well, we don't need to do that yet. I mean, the motion to tables the issue until next month, but next month we'd have to have what Charlie's talking
Okay,
about.
we just need to
Correct.
remember to do that.
Yeah, we
Yep.
do need to remember.
Otherwise, we have two of them.
Yep.
And we don't have to, since it was a past motion, it'd be the appropriate motion is to rescind the previous action. But and it's this is non-controversial, but I think it was probably, if we look back, it was unanimous vote, so we don't have to worry about who made the motion and all that stuff.
Correct. You wouldn't have to worry about that. What I would do though, before you do that motion next time is to take it off the table. Have the motion to vacate it's going to be a logistical nightmare, but we'll work through it.
And you will help me through that. next
Absolutely.
month, right, Charlie?
Mr. Chair,
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
just a
Go ahead.
detailed question. What does it take to take a table off? Is it 2/3 vote? Members,
No, simple majority.
No, it's just a
To take
majority.
take off the table.
take off the table is
Right.
civil majority.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so that is tabled. All right. Okay, next, is the sheriff with us? There he is. Okay, Sheriff Simonton, you are up on D.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just this more for information and just your thoughts. We have an opportunity with two new applicants, one for patrol, one for corrections. These are new, not replacement hires, based on the potential budget approval, to be able to hire them before December 1st. In other words, get them in by November 1st. They're lateral transfers. And this gives us the opportunity to avoid some extensive academy costs because they already have the commensurate training, and get them started on the FTO program, get them out on the road, get them in the jail, and start working much sooner than what we maybe anticipated, because our next slot in the academy is August of 2022. So I do have enough money in the salary line item to cover 1 month salary for these employees if I would bring them in November instead of December. But I just wanted to run it by public safety and finance to gauge your thoughts on bringing these folks in. Again, we'd save about 75% of the cost of the academy, just because they can do their training online and be out on the road.
And this covers both D and E line item and.
Correct. Yes, I just lumped them together, Jim. Yes.
Gotcha.
And this is just one for patrol, one for corrections, not all four.
And okay, and you do have the money left over in your salary line item.
Correct.
Sheriff, beyond salary, what kind of costs are we gonna incur? Are we looking at buying a car? Are we looking at things you don't have in budget? Are we gonna be over budget on anything for this? I understand the training, but a car, uniforms, guns, equipment?
No, I'm going to take care of it. Unfortunately, as you know from the budget, you remove that vehicle. So I'm going to have to be creative in getting them a vehicle. And that's my problem down the road. So no, it's not going to cost the county any more money than what we've already budgeted for.
This is a question for Paula. Refresh my memory, when we approved the new hires in next year's budget, was that a full year's worth of salary or was that kicking in later in the year?
No, it was full year.
Full year, okay.
Mr. McLean.
Same question I had earlier. If ARP grant approves 4 positions based on that, we go ahead. So is this contingent on anything with or without the ARP grant? We thought one time we could get more than 2 positions. And same thing like we're doing with public health.
Right. So that would be through the ARPA process. And if we can defray that later on.
So we don't change our budget, we just amend it when we do the ARP process. Okay. I just always been confused on that issue.
Yeah, no, so because of, if you remember, Arlen, that you can't change the bottom line of your budget once you passed it. So we included all those positions in the budget. And that way, and then in the case that the ARPA committee would make a recommendation to the finance committee, we can take that up at that time. Okay. All right, John, procedurally, do you need, since this is already in your budget, is there
Money.
okay, so there is a requirement to have a motion? Like that was my question, right? All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for the sheriff's department to hire the positions a month early. Guess that's the appropriate way to have the motion. So I would entertain such a motion. Motion by Firester, seconded by.
So in this budget, we're taking it out of.
In the Mike Arlen.
In this budget, we're taking out of existing vacant positions. Is that correct? Or is it?
No, these are new positions that are created in the new budget that would be hired early. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. You want to make the second?
I'd love to.
Okay, McLean seconds the motion. So discussion. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those voting no. Motion carries. Okay. All right. We are to F. Amboy ordinance violations handled by Lee County State's Attorney. Charlie?
Yes, sir. So the city of Amboy reached out to my office inquiring whether or not we would be willing to take on their city ordinance violations. So what this is an agreement between the county and the city of Amboy to handle what would be any ordinance violations that go through there. The way it looks is we would handle those to disposition. If there is a jury trial demand, then their city attorney would still handle that. So anything in between that would be handled by our office, we would get $75. I say we, what I mean is the county would get $75 per citation that is handled by my office. So this was just something for Finance Committee to mull over. I presented it at Public Safety yesterday. They voted to recommend it to the board for us to move forward on. Obviously, if there's any questions or concerns about it, I'd like to handle those with you.
You have an estimate of how many cases a year they're hearing or?
I don't. I can get those for you if you'd like. The way that I described it to Public Safety yesterday was they would be handled in the same fashion as our cattle call on Wednesdays. Basically, you're just adding a couple more cases each week that we would handle through negotiations with people as they come in, or if they're paid over the window through the circuit clerk's office, it would be handled that way.
I guess the only concern that I would ask is that, was it the last meeting we had, you talked about bringing in some part-time attorneys to get caught up. So additional workload, I mean.
I don't think
how
it'd be
does that balance?
significant.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't think it would be significant. I think it'd be something easily handled. I think it'd be an extra, if you want to quantify it, half an hour of work for an assistant state's attorney each week. Yes, sir.
Charlie, so are you in favor of this?
Yeah, I don't have a problem doing it. We already handle, obviously, for the county. If you want an example of it, over in Whiteside County, their state's attorney's office also handles Morrison's city ordinance violations. It's not unheard of and it's pretty standard.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So do you don't need any action by this committee? This was information.
Correct. If there's a recommendation you want to make by motion, that's up to you. You don't have to. It'll be on executive as well. And if it's something that would be approved by executive, be put on the full board, then the full board would have a vote on it. And basically what we're looking for is just the authority given to the chairman to sign off on an intergovernmental agreement to do so.
Okay, so we'll handle that. We'll treat it as an information item here and it'll move on to the executive. All right, anything else on that, Charlie?
Nope.
Anybody have any other questions?
Charlie, I apologize.
No.
We're finance people. We talk about money. Does that go in your budget or where does that?
They just go to the county general.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Nope, good question. Okay, I clarified something. Sorry, Charlie, while you were explaining what that was all about, I did clarify something with Becky. On the previous motion in regards to the new hires, sheriff's new hires, that actually should be a motion that goes to executives. So Doug just left. That was good timing. So we need to make her the motion and the seconder to amend the motion to send that to executive rather than that.
Can we just move on and come back?
Yeah, I'll come back when Doug gets back there, John. But so don't let me forget to do that.
Good job.
Okay, so ordinance on the PACE program.
That's me. I'll start.
There you go, Wendy. I was looking to see which of you wanted to take it and I was just about ready to yell at Andy, so go ahead.
Tag, I'm it. So if you'll recall, back in July, the county board did approve a resolution to proceed forward with the PACE program. Some of you might recall it being called at times CPACE. The PACE program, the C stood for commercial, but in going forward, the language is always going to say PACE. So they're one and the same. Don't get confused. We are focusing now on the actual implementation of the PACE program. The next step for that implementation are two different documents that I want to draw your attention to. I know they got sent out in the packet. My apologies for the packet being quite large this month, but we wanted you to see all the documents and have a chance to review those in case you had any questions. Our focus for this month, and by the way, this will be an ordinance, so it will lay over until November. That's when you'll finalize it. Our focus is going to be two documents out of the documents you received. The ordinance. The ordinance has associated sample or template documents of some of the other documents that won't be populated or won't be completed until we actually have projects to consider. The second document that we need to be focused on for today is an administrative services agreement. That essentially is the agreement between Lee County and the IECA, which actually does all of the administration for this on behalf of our county. And with that said, I'm going to throw it out to those individuals that have already identified themselves that are here for this topic. If any of you want to contribute or add anything to what I've just said, and then we'll throw it out to the board members for any questions they may have. Seema, I don't know if you want to go first. You're up in the upper left-hand corner, so you just happen to be the first person I saw.
Sure. Happy to discuss and certainly answer any questions any of you may have. As Wendy mentioned, this PACE program has been in discussion for a while. It is essentially the county's opportunity to facilitate this program. The county, it's an interesting sort of private-public partnership, so to speak. The benefit really goes to private property owners, commercial owners. In Illinois, there is no opportunity for residential PACE. That's a totally separate program. So for commercial property owners, this is an opportunity for them to use this as a financing option if the projects that they are undertaking or have already undertaken and want to refinance are green projects, so to speak. So there's a very specific definition of what a clean energy project is pursuant to the PACE Act. But for the most part, what we've seen a lot of so far in the state are solar panels, installing solar panels, sort of water saving mechanisms, whether that's like new toilets or things like that. So those kinds of green projects that a commercial property owner wants to install, this is an opportunity for them to kind of finance it and have the payments paid via their tax bill. So it's a special assessment that's put on the property for the life of the financing. It follows the property, it does not follow the owner. And the county, by implementing this program pursuant to the PACE Act of the state, they are allowing property owners in the county to do this. But the county doesn't take on any debt responsibility. It's all, any bonds that are issued are all payable only from a special assessment.
And I'm Anna Maria Kowalik, representing the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority. We are actually the group with whom you would engage in this services contract. We are a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 here in the state of Illinois. And basically, we make our fees through a one-time closing cost at the time of a deal coming to close. We act as the facilitator between the stakeholders of a deal, who are typically a commercial property owner, their contractor, their capital provider, because this is private equity investment in private projects, and typically their mortgage lender as well. If there is an existing mortgage on the property, written lender consent is required here by statute in the state of Illinois. And so as far as the program itself, my predecessors, both Wendy and Seema with Chapman and Cutler, who are your municipal attorneys in this transaction, really touched on all the finer points. And if you have any additional questions, both Seema and I are here to answer those for you.
Very good. So as a reminder, this is us enacting the program has already been enacted, already been passed by the county board. So this is the ordinance. So this is the enacting legislation that we're passing on. So I'm going to go ahead and entertain a motion to pass this on to executive, and then we can have more further discussion on it once we get a motion on the floor. So moved by Mimini, seconded by Kitson. Discussion. So Wendy, do you have anything else? No, the one question that I do have is now that we have this in place and probably be moving forward with the ordinance, the reporting as far as what's going on with the program as participants come online. I'm assuming that's going to be a regular part of the treasurer's report, I guess I'm asking that be part of the regular treasurer's report. or how do you foresee that working, Paula? Because I think, the board should know, and this committee specifically should know.
To
what's out
Seema or Anna Marie, who are on the call with us, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not looking, you may as a board want the treasurer to report on something, but we are going to be receiving regular reports and communications from the administrator of the process. Paula's function, or the treasurer's function, is going to be to collect that money and then distribute it out to, excuse me, the appropriate entity that's,
The loan off.
yeah, the loan, to pay the
So-
loan off.
As long as I think this body, the finance committee specifically, is made aware of how the program is participating, how many participants we have, what's outstanding, that kind of thing. I think
Absolutely.
that would be
I see Anna
pertinent
Marie shaking her head
information.
here. So yeah, that type of reporting is going to happen. That function, to my understanding, is not on the treasurer. Rather, she just is going to collect and distribute like she already does.
Every county can kind of approach that differently, and I think does so far. But I think, Wendy, what will happen is when we do a deal, right? A property owner comes in, says, I have this project. The IECA will go through and make sure everything is proper and ready to go, and then it's a legitimate project, that it meets all of the necessary criteria, et cetera. They come to us and they say, okay, we need documents drafted for this. We draft documents. We go to the county, and there are going to be signatures required of the county to facilitate the transaction. There will be a transcript created. A notification of sale is included in that. And that is easily, I think, distributed to county board members once the transaction occurs. And so, in terms of keeping up with what's going on, it should be relatively easy to facilitate that communication.
Okay.
County will actually see each deal, in other words,
There
as
won't
they
be
come
any-
through.
Exactly.
And just to set some expectations, don't expect, that there are going to be 20 deals in the first year. It's usually maybe one and, and hopefully one during the first year. That would be extremely successful. But then, once this becomes better known throughout the county, actually it becomes a great economic development and also business retention tool in helping improve existing aging building stock. And so, it could geometrically increase over a couple of years. So, hopefully it will be something that's not too labor intensive on anyone's part initially. This is the hard work, getting the ordinance done and passed. And then it'll be a little smoother sailing.
So just one quick elaboration on that. Andy Shaw is on the call right now, so he may have shared this, but I will share with you that he has been approached by a local business that is interested in participating in this program. So we do have someone with an interest locally. I'll just share that.
Interesting. Go ahead, John.
There's two that are interested, if I recall. And what kind of
Closer to the mic, John.
what kind of fee do we get out of this?
So that is a fee that can be negotiated after the ordinance is passed. That's something that's a little bit more administrative. And as long as it's, settled before the first deal goes through to fruition, there's usually no rush on that, but it's something that you can take under consideration. Presently, I can tell you that there are actually 13 counties that have accepted our program. 10 are fully launched and active. And within that group of 10, the rates to the county are varying. The one-time closing fee goes from 0.25% all the way up to 1% of the total transaction cost. However, many of the higher ended fees are capping out at $50,000 approximately. And we do recommend a cap because, for appearance's sake, this does not need to be a program that's gouging constituencies' fees and making the program more expensive than it is. And so, we recommend anywhere between the 0.25% and 1%. And it's totally up to the board as to how they wish to charge.
Thank you. I don't think we need to gouge people, so to speak, is service, but we don't want to lose money in our administrative fee either. So
There's also a fee built in for each property tax bill. So because the assessment will go on and will need to be calculated and dealt with every, twice a year with every property tax bill. So there's a small additional fee that's placed on that as well.
So we'd call that a recurring collection fee. And so the only recurring fees in this program to the commercial property owner, besides the interest that is amortized in the scheduled payments that they'll be making for the term of the loan, are the two recurring collection fees by the county and by the program. Otherwise, all other fees involved in the program to the property owner only. There are no costs to the county. Those fees are one-time closing fees to the property owner.
thank you.
Charlie, I didn't review the entire 82-page document, but I'm assuming your office did. Everything's okay in the ordinance?
If it was the same one that Paul and I had reviewed last, was it summer or whatever it may be, then yes.
Okay. All right. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here.
See you at the next meeting.
All right, who's taking the next one? I see Paul's in the back. Wendy, do you want to go
I
ahead?
will. Do you want to go back to the earlier motion that you want to?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get that taken care of. Doug, you went and got coffee and I talked with, no, it's quite all right. But anyway, that motion on regards to the sheriff's new hire, that was actually should be a motion to move to executive, and we didn't do that. So as a maker of the motion, you need to
I'll rescind that motion.
and well, we can just amend it to.
Okay, amended to move it to executive.
And Arlen, you were the seconder. Oh, okay, very good. You have, so all those in favor of amending that motion to send to executive, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Becky, is that good enough for you? Very good. Thank you. All right.
Okay, so board organizational software.
There you
So
go. Thank you, Wendy.
the chairman and actually, I think a couple other members of this board have had the opportunity through other boards that they've served on, specifically school boards, to have become familiar with a software program in which all of the agendas, minutes, and related documents are essentially fed to each of you via a software program and a laptop or a tablet or something along those lines. The chairman asked me to do a little research on that. He was very interested in at least finding out some information on that. So I've done that with his allocation of resources. I did tap into Jack Scrogstead and Marilyn Shippert for demonstrations of a couple different companies. So we've had 3 different demonstrations now. We've asked a lot of questions, and we're at the point where we would like to move forward with and get your approval to move forward with something. So the software program that we're looking at, to give you an idea, high level overview, the software program itself is a per user fee. So however many board members we have that would use it. And of course, we have some staff that would have to be administratively using it. And then also there's modules that you would add on. As an example, one module is a module that would allow you to push a button on your tablet and make a public vote that would then be displayed up on the screen. The biggest benefit of this particular software program versus some of the others that, at least from my perspective, is the administrative behind the scenes functionality of it. So how it kind of works behind the scenes is that as Becky or perhaps Nancy as our clerk would be building the agenda would be built, and immediately in the same place on the agenda that a topic is going to be presented would be live links to any associated documents. So you would follow along on your tablet or your laptop, and when you got to an agenda item such as what we just talked about with PACE, you push on a button and the PACE documents come up. And then that can be then imported into the framework or structure of a minutes document. So in other words, going into a meeting, Becky or Nancy could have the basic framework of the entire agenda imported into a minutes document, and they would add then the discussion that occurs or sometimes modifications to any motions that may come forward that, you know, hadn't been made or known about prior to the agenda being created. So the overall cost of this with all the modules, including that board organization or administration module and with the voting module, we're looking at about $10,000 per year. That's a reoccurring cost. That, in addition to that, of course, we're talking about then having tablets or laptops for everybody in the boardroom for accessing this. And that's why I brought Paul in to kind of give you an idea of what that cost would be. Before I turn this over to Paul, though, two things I want to do. I want to turn it over to Jack and Marilyn for their comments. And I also want to point out that this was one of the priorities that came forward as a part of ARPA. Now, having said that, pre-ARPA strategic planning meeting, I was moving forward with this process with the understanding that perhaps there would be remaining capital in this existing budget year that could be allocated to this. I did ask Paula, and you've got in your reports, there is capital that was budgeted for in this existing year that did not get spent. So it's a possibility to go that direction and not ARPA. I'm here to get your feedback and also to provide you with the information. Marilyn, do you want to go? Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Wendy's covered it very well, but I was super impressed with this. Software.
Still not there, Marilyn. You gotta get closer. I don't know why the mics just aren't as sensitive this morning as they normally are.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I was super impressed with this software. Those of you that know me well know I've got multiple computers in my house. I brought my Microsoft Surface along today, which I have other times, and without software linking everything together, I do prefer paper at a board meeting. You know, I'm shuffling along between your agenda and documents today. It's very awkward, but with the onboard software, and as Wendy said, the links right there, it would make shifting between documents very easy. You know, we'd save a lot of paper costs. We'd save time with preparing agendas and minutes, especially. You know, I look at it as a win-win situation. Jack, your comments.
One of the things that really struck me as very powerful is the voting feature. You would be sitting there, you know, at your desk, and a topic would come up where we would need to vote, and you would just sit there, and it's like, okay, we're gonna vote. And you would click on a button, yes or no, that you were gonna vote yes. Now, the person sitting next to me or across from me is maybe they're determining what their vote is based on what Mr. Copain's gonna vote for. So he's waiting for that. Well, he's not gonna know that. He's not gonna know what Mike voted for. So he's gonna have to do his research and investigate on what the topic is. And he's gonna have to make that vote. So, you know, now again, at the end of the vote, you'll be able to see what everyone voted for, but that's after, you know, you can time it out to a particular, you can gear it to a particular way that you will know when everyone's done voting. That was one of the things that I really liked. So it makes that kind of board member more accountable on what his vote is going to be. So and again, I think it's going to save time for the administration behind it. They'll put together they don't have to upload it. to a website, then they got to turn around and email it. What they can do is, if there's any changes, they just make the changes on the onboard platform and it's done. They don't have to do anything else. They don't have to resend it out to everybody and whatnot. So, and the public would have access to that. As soon as she posted that and on the, saves it on the onboard, it's uploaded to the website. The community can click on a link to take you to that agenda whenever it's ready to go. So, I mean, it's the saving of the paper, it's the saving of the time of the staff, it's putting it together. I think this is awesome and we're moving forward again.
So I think Jack kind of hit on it, but I forgot to mention, this is a cloud-based storage system of the documents. So our vision was you would take your tablet or laptop, whatever you were assigned to, you would take it home and be able to get to these documents and review them in advance of the meeting. Or alternatively, if you prefer your own desktop at home, you can use this cloud-based system to then log in and get to it from your desktop at home. You don't have to carry an extra tablet around if you don't need to. This will be accessible under any device that can essentially get to the internet is all it boils down to. So you have some flexibility with how you would access agenda items and documents in advance of meetings. With that said, I would throw it out to Paul to talk to us about the hardware. Oh, Marilyn has a follow-up.
Comment question that I asked Wendy this morning to reaffirm my understanding from before. When I've got a paper copy.
A little closer, Marilyn, sorry.
I'm gonna have to swallow this thing.
I don't know why it's like that this morning, but it is. You really got
Okay,
to.
anyway,
Part of the technology.
I was quite sure this was the case, but I reaffirmed my understanding by asking Wendy this morning. Oftentimes during the board meeting, I'll take notes on my agenda. That can still be done and it will be saved, my comments to my agenda on my login so that I can see the comments I made during the meeting. You won't see my comments, you'll see your comments on it, which to me is a very nice feature also.
And will be saved going forward.
Paul, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. And before I get into the onboard hardware discussion, I just like to point out that Wendy and some board members have already reminded me and pointed out that you do wish to improve the audio visual capabilities of this space here. And I would encourage you to route those through Wendy, and I'll work through Wendy on that project. Having 5 or 6 people come to me and then to Wendy in separate discussions may not lead to the solution that you're looking for. So let's coordinate it through Wendy, and Wendy will work with me and we'll give a presentation to you on your options and we'll move forward from there. My own note from the back was that the audio works pretty well, except there is a little bit of an echo, and any other type of technology that you add will increase that echo, making it difficult for those people with hearing impairments like myself, a little bit deaf in one ear, to grasp everything that's being said. So the goal would be to improve the quality and the clarity for everybody participating. Now, on this particular issue about your software, I agree. The low end version of it without the voting or without that module is really just kind of the bait to kind of really and to make it truly functional and to make it easier to assemble the documents and go for. I would really recommend the module for the voting. Now, in terms of the hardware that's requirement, it supports various tablets and desktops and laptops. The Wendy tasked me with getting some pricing, and what I would recommend is that you're going to go with a standard type of tablet, either an Android or an iOS, an Apple tablet, or a laptop. Those have strengths and weaknesses and come at different price points. But right now, you're looking at a price from anywhere from 18,000 to 22 or 23 for either an Apple tablet, a desk or laptop, which is in the middle range, and then actually the Android tablet's kind of on the high end, because this would include cases and little keyboards like here that Marilyn had on her computer. Different people will prefer touch and the like. In my pricing for my laptop doesn't include a touch screen, so Wendy has asked me to go out and get pricing for that. And you probably won't get 100% consensus on which is preferred, either a tablet or a Windows laptop. But my recommendation would be at a price point of about $20,000 for, this is for 26 units, assuming we're at 24 members now, plus a couple of spares, and then going down to a board of 20 with a few extra spares. That any of that technology, even if a board member is using their own equipment at home and then only using the equipment for voting here or something like that, that a laptop could always be put into a loaner pool for the staff here in the county. So you can repurpose it if it's not being utilized fully by a board member, where either even a Windows tablet or an Android tablet or an iOS may not find any other use in the county other than for your board meetings. And you may be expending money on things that might be technically collecting dust. So, as I would mention to Wendy, I don't want to spend money on technology that isn't being used regularly. And even regular would just be your committee meetings and your regular meeting. That, to me, that there's value to that, but just to have it sitting around and not being used because you have your own tablet that you're comfortable using, or your own Surface that you're comfortable using. At least then I would be to say, we've identified a couple of board members who are using their own technology at home and in the meeting. I can use those 2 loaner laptops throughout the county. For an example, just yesterday, I had a request for 2 loaners and I only had 1 available. So this would allow it to add to the pool for the entire county. And in terms of making that all work though, so you had about a $20,000 cost for non-touchscreen laptops with a few to spare, is that there's a lack of power here for people to plug in their devices if they're not charged and the like. So you will need some electrical upgrades in this space as part of this and as part of any kind of AV upgrade here. And I don't have the dollar amount on that. And that would be, would ask probably Wendy to work with Greg Saunders. I'm working with Engel or somebody else like that, a contractor, to take a look at what the electrical upgrade would be. So in addition to your software cost, got a hardware cost probably in around of $20,000. If you want touchscreen laptops, it'll get more, and I'll have pricing to Wendy by the end of the day for something like that. But you'll also have the cost for upgrading the electrical runs here, because not that I don't trust you, but you'd probably be coming in with something that's lightly charged or no charge at all. And if you're bringing your device back and forth and it's not charged, you won't be able to vote then. So, and that's what we know, that's what I'm concerned about. Unless you plan on just leaving your device here and we can keep like charging stations over in the back room here or something like that. Just to give you a heads up, I would recommend electrical upgrades here to support not only this initiative, but the AV upgrades that we will be moving forward for this space. And regarding your cost savings in terms of staff savings, in terms of the onboard, you're going to see savings in terms of the prepping for the meeting and getting the minutes and like put together at the end. I've been part of the digitalization of a number of meeting workflows, and I still, throughout 3 of those projects, find that about a third to a little less than a third, maybe a quarter of the board members of those various boards still want to print out their documents. I'm just letting you know, if you get 100% compliance, it'd be the first time I ever saw that. I'd be really happy to be part of that. But
So as a quick follow-up to Paul's comments on the electrical upgrades, a reminder that in your capital plan that you did approve, there was a $28,000, as I remember, project that Greg did put in to upgrade the electrical in this building, because it's needed not only in this room, but in other areas where we're having trouble with things that are shorting out or for whatever reason, electricity is going out for abruptly. So there is something programmed in to do that. And that would obviously also need to be taken care of in this room. So just as a follow-up to that. With that said, I would throw it out to any questions or comments the committee has.
Arlen.
Is there a search function? For example, I used to use Kathy a lot. I'd say, didn't we work on that a couple of years ago, whatever? And she'd use her computer brain to come and
Yes, there's a search function. Yay. Yes, you can search by keywords, key documents, and yeah, and you'll have access to all the prior agendas and minutes in through this cloud-based storage system. And you can search that, those files and find something.
I think that's very important.
Oh, well, we could have used that just like this morning, we could have pulled up, what that motion was and all that from that, on the auditor deal. Right.
Just a couple comments, I guess, or questions. Yeah, not having any experience with any of the software companies, and it doesn't really matter at this point in time. I guess my question is more focused on what will the cost on the other companies? I see this one here comes in at 10,500, but it's an annual reoccurring cost. And in the fine print down here, they got a 5% annual increase. When we first talked about this, I was under the impression it was going to be one-time money. We were looking at the ARPA fund to pay for a lot of this. The concern is going forward, 5-10 years down the road, it's an additional cost in our budget. So I think it's something that's warranted. I'm just concerned about, have we looked at costs from some of the other companies? Is there any just a one-time payment with maybe some upgrades occasionally? And then the other part of the question would be, I don't know. I mean, it's probably stepping over pennies to pick up, or stepping over dimes to pick up pennies, but with the board size being reduced to 24, do we want to wait till we implement this when we get down to 20 and rather than pay the upfront cost for the first year? Just a question, I guess.
So I'll address a couple of those things. To answer your question about the other product that we did look at, the estimated price of the other product was about $5,000. So I'm going to say roughly half of what this product was. But to be clear, it didn't offer those the voting option. It didn't offer that administrative behind the scenes, build the agenda and have those links import over into a framework of a minutes document. So administratively, this one came right to the top in terms of what it offered. The other thing that all of us have forgotten to mention is this is the one that we looked at, the only one we looked at that is integrated with Zoom. So you can have on your screen a Zoom and immediately link right to from your meeting agenda to the Zoom, whether somebody's presenting like they did this morning, or if you are, for one of the three reasons that you could be physically remote at a meeting, you could be participating on your screen through this platform into Zoom and also still have available your agenda items. So that to us was super powerful. So yeah, there is cheaper options, but of course, like with everything, it comes with less functionality. Rick, I'm sorry, you had another thought and I lost where I was going with
Probably
it.
on the inflation adjustment.
The inflation adjustment, to be fair, any software, we all operate every day on all kinds of software platforms. And the fact is that's very common, that there is an annual increase built in because what they provide annual support to these products and annual upgrades to the software. So I think I know that's a common thing. And yeah, it's something we're going to have to understand going into it. Rick, you had one other thing. I should have been writing these down.
Just the, from the decrease in size of board members from 24 to 20, so.
Yes, thank you. That was the other thing. So we did talk about that with Marilyn and Jack. And in the last demo, we actually had Alice Hinkle participate because the question became, would this also be useful for zoning meetings? The same thing. They build agendas, they do minutes, et cetera. So we had Alice participate from that. And the conversation was, well, when we go down to the fewer board members, is there an opportunity as phase 2 to be able to have 4 or 5 laptops or whatever we use, tablets, to then transfer over to planning and zoning? That would be something a little less that we would send home with them because we'd only have like the 5, but those 2 committees could have access to that. And then they could start using the power of the software under no additional annual fee because it's the same number of users we would have established at the very beginning. So that's an opportunity as phase 2 that we talked about.
Yeah, hold on, Marilyn, I had a comment.
My only thing is that in whatever hardware we choose, we need to be aware of availability. We're talking about all these backlogs and everything else. I hate to see us buy the software and then, oops, we can't get the hardware we chose. Just a comment.
To that, all the products I was talking about are shipping and available. Sometimes the shipping and available type of product tends to be a little bit more expensive than the things that is available. But in that regard, the product that you would need for this solution would be available in the time frame that you're looking for. It's just making sure we've got the proper, and you don't have to wait for the electrical, but we just want to make sure that everything else is in place. And I'm still working through that with my team. As a matter of fact, Zach just came over. Did you think about this? Did you think about this? So we're going to chat about this afternoon. But I did want to mention the dovetail on what Wendy said and to address a concern over here. The typical business practice for cloud hosting and even non-cloud hosting things, items that we have here internal, is an annual agreement, usually a hefty amount, that's based on per users or a number of users or a flat rate with a planned upgrade going forward. So anytime, whether it's me or somebody else in another department is suggesting that they're going to a cloud-based system or a software-based system, assume out of the box that there's going to be an annual charge for it, and it's not a one-time fee, and that they're going to probably bake in some type of annual increase into the cost, just to be upfront and fair, so that in 11 months, you're not saying, hey, you didn't tell me about this 5% increase.
Right. And again, we're not just paying for the software and the software development, but we are paying for the cloud storage. The benefit of the cloud storage is that you all can access it from whatever device in whatever location that you're at by logging in using your username and password. So that, again, added the power to it, but it also does add the corresponding expense to it.
So I caught the 5% adjustment is just like Rick did. One thing that I didn't see and I don't want to assume, I can accept the 5% increase as long as that also includes the automatic upgrades of the software, because that's that's one of the things you do with a one-time thing like what Rick talks about. And then you get slammed with these huge upgrade fees. And I've seen that in my QuickBooks software and all that. So does this proposal include, automatic upgrades to the software as they come down the pike, or are we going to, be hit with?
It includes the automatic upgrades.
But that's a great point, though, because I've dealt with vendors that have like 2 or 3 tiers that you pay an annual fee for it, but the annual fee may only be for support and not the next major version upgrade. Right. From what I understand, this includes any major version upgrades, because what they're doing is making it on the cloud and pushing it out to everybody at the same level. It's easier for them to manage one version and just support everybody on the same, the same version.
Gotcha. Liram, you had a question.
I have a couple points. Through Zoom, we're not able to vote anymore.
Well,
say that we're not able to vote.
Well, there does seem to be some confusion about that. So the governor did rescind the opportunity to attend remotely. But the open meetings, so now what we did is we reverted back to the original Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act allows 3 different opportunities for board members to attend remotely if you have it as a part of your board rules, which we don't have right now. There's been some work on the board rules, and one of the topics that they're talking about is including now those 3 opportunities that are allowed under the Open Meetings Act, which would be that if you are ill and simply can't be in the room physically, if you are traveling for business purposes and can't be in the room physically, or I believe the third one was if you have a family member. So you could, under those 3 circumstances, if our board rules included it, you could vote and participate remotely. But the big caveat to that is at a committee meeting like this, if all of you decided to go remote, if there's not a physical quorum in the room, the meeting can't go on. So with those rules, Liram, you could participate and vote remotely using this software.
Okay, and my other comment is the Open Meetings Act that you just mentioned. Jack mentioned that you can vote in secret, but I want to give you another example that our legislature uses these machines. And some issues that they had at the beginning were, let's say your neighbor gets up and goes in the bathroom, and this happened in the Senate. I talked with our local senator where it happened was the neighbor went over there and clicked on the button and voted for this person. And they were voting on the same, he okayed the vote, but that breaks the Open Meetings Act because he wasn't presently there. And the neighbor voted for this.
Yeah, I tell you, there are definitely
That's why we have.
your
some
board,
rules
yes,
also
your
for-
board rules have to allow for this type of vote, and you do have to set in those guidelines. And as I mentioned earlier, the vote, in order to be transparent, it does have to be displayed on a screen that the public can see via Zoom, or the public can see sitting in this room. Your vote is going to go up on a screen that says this is how you voted.
But initially it wasn't. And
Right.
And I just like, and this would be a point that Charlie maybe speak to, but in the matter of something like that happened in one of like my meetings that I have outside of here, I would have raised a point of order to the chair to saying this member's not present and somebody's voting in his or her absence, and this is out of order. And I don't know what happened in that case, but I think here people would certainly raise their hand and say, hey, don't do it.
Well,
Okay, so before we get further in the weeds, I got a quick question. When do you have this as a action item? What action is being looked for from this committee? So
Well,
know
again,
how
I
to
was
proceed.
moving forward with this topic at Bob's direction, even outside of the ARPA discussion. So with the understanding that there would be available capital left that we could move forward yet this year, the idea would be to implement December, January timeframe if we can get all the hardware and everything in place. The software providers, it's a cloud-based thing. They can get us set up in a very short period of time. So what I'm looking for from you is the direction of, number one, we want to consider ARPA, in which case it needs to go to the ARPA committee first, then to this committee and onto the full board. So that'll change the flow of it. Or you can say, yeah, we authorize you to move forward using capital budget that's left, and let's just move forward with that outside of ARPA. Your choice.
So I'm struggling here as far as, as far as the presentation on the software, I love the way this looks. It looks like that it's comprehensive. It looks, appears to be easy to use. We've got 2 board members and staff that are recommending it, accept all that. But what we have before us is strictly a proposal for the software. The biggest part of this whole transition is the hardware. And boy, there's a lot of questions there. I have questions in regards to security. When are devices allowed to be taken home? Are they going to be, what happens when one gets lost? What's the ease of locking a member? It's just like we had a board member that just resigned. How does that all work?
If I might just address that one thing, because I
Yeah,
forgot to
yep,
mention
yep,
it.
yep. I
So
was
this
on a
cloud-
roll though, Wendy.
Yeah, no,
No,
this
go.
cloud-based program, if you read the material, because I reviewed it again yesterday, what's awesome about it is if something gets lost or stolen, they can wipe it remotely from their end of things. They can wipe it remotely. So that's the good news. And I interrupted your thought. I just want to throw that out there. I was
No,
thinking-
that's quite all right. Thank you for that. And the other thing is, once I think there just needs to be on some understanding is that the biggest cost of this is the hardware, because as time goes on and you get the upgrades, the hardware can change and be necessary to, different requirements. So,
Well, my projection for, and this is why I didn't recommend like a Kindle Fire, which might last a year or 18 months before you have to upgrade. Any of the solutions that I would offer would be at least a 3-year solution, hopefully up to 4. But I'm looking at 3. The software is not going to change substantially in terms of the browser technology. If you want to make sure your browser technology on your device stays current, you're going to probably go with a Windows 10 laptop or an iPad. Because sometimes on the Android operating system, they lock you out after 1 or 2 upgrades on it in a short period of time. So for maximum flexibility in terms of upgrades, you're going to look at something that usually upgrades the operating system for at least 5 years, and that would keep you current with the technology that's hosted in the cloud. And if you want something that's more secure and locked down, then you're going to go with a kind of the tablet type of thing where it's less useful to the, to the person for the purpose, you know, for what we're using it here. And also probably less prone to some malware and the like, and restrict what type of apps. You know, you've got the browser, and maybe if you need an additional voting app or something else, and then that's it, you know, or Zoom, you know, or the client or something like that. And then it's restricted and it's locked down. But even then with the Windows 10 laptop, we can do that. And that's part of our security upgrades across the county, is to lock things down consistently. So, but if you want to take the discussion offline, you know, feel free. We'll work with Wendy and talk about your security issues, because I'm still working out the detailed specs and on the touch laptop versions. But I would say not to exceed $30,000, but more in the $18,000 to $21,000 range. Then I'm looking for hardware that would last for 3 years. So you're looking at $10,000 investment a year, not unlike the software itself.
Mr. Humphrey.
So I guess, would it be out of the realm to, I mean, appreciate all the time and the effort's gone into this, but perhaps we need to come back with the total package of cost of the laptops, the electrical work, the software, the hardware and everything, so we can vote on everything at once and have a true understanding of what this is all going to cost us. I mean, to me, I don't know. We've been doing it like this for years. I don't know that another 2-3 months is going to hurt anything. Whereas that we get a true understanding of where we're at.
Mr. McLean.
I think this solves our paper problem, but I think we got a bigger problem than that, because we want our board members to read and understand what's on those papers, what's on that. And I think if we implement now without some research and look at committee structures and things like that. I mean, it may be that one committee doesn't work on everything or whatever, because I think our issue is the knowledge of the board members getting that information. This is a tremendous amount of legal information we get every board meeting, and very seldom do I think people really understand it when they're voting. So I think we need to table or not officially do this till we have a comprehensive plan of how to look at it. So I'm agreeing with Rick. I hate that. But
Well, so what I guess, Wendy, as far as the action coming out of this committee, if we gave you a direction that we would like to see a you know, the full package rather than approving this strictly, you know, because we'd be doing it piecemeal. And I agree with Mr. Humphrey. I'm not sure I can get behind that. I'd like to be able to see how this is going to be integrated. I think the issues we need to solve. So it's just like me. I've got an iPad, and I'd probably want to just use my iPad. It's my unit. I'll upgrade it when I want a unit. Is that going to be a problem under this system? I doubt that it is, but that affects cost as well. If there's, how many of these things do we actually need? We could do a survey among the board members of asking, okay, do you need a device or don't you? And that's going to change over time. That's going to significantly alter the cost. If you had 6-8 board members that don't need a unit, it's going to be a lot cheaper and a lot easier for our IT person to, keep track of devices. I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking.
So just to clarify, what I'm hearing you say is you want a complete package, which would include obviously not just the software, the hardware. So I would look to Paul to that, the electrical upgrade, which again is incorporated already in the $28,000 that you've approved in the budget or that you're recommending to the full board.
Can I ask a quick question on Paul on that? Is so that 28,000 that is built, that would give us. That's great.
He's saying no.
He's shaking his head no.
Greg, can you stick up?
Yep. Thanks.
Sorry to interrupt you. but-
No, thank you, Mr. Kitson.
That 28,000, just to upgrade all the panels, get rid of the old panels, upgrade the panels to new circuit panels, run larger wires, because we're gonna have larger panels, we're gonna have more circuits coming out of them. And we will have a few things that we had set up for IT to run some more circuits for some of his stuff, but it was just a narrow scope of work because till we got that done, we didn't know how far we're gonna be able to go out to extend. You
So
know, I'd have
it
to-
didn't include any additional electrical outlets in this particular room, you're saying?
Right.
Okay,
I mean,
so we're back to the software,
Mhm.
the hardware, come back with a complete recommendation and a dollar amount. I'll work with Greg on potentially some additional costs to outfit this room, which we're going to need to do anyway, again, even without the software because of the microphones and whatnot that needed to be upgraded. We already knew that was coming down the pike. So I'll work with somebody on that.
And I guess, my comment, and the committee can add in their thoughts there. My thoughts there is that we keep that as simple as possible, and not do, a major, because, we're talking sort of like what you were referring to, Paul. Somebody comes in and they forgot to plug in their device and they need, so we probably don't need, we don't need an outlet at every single desk or anything like that. So I
But we do
guess
need to
that's my
get more,
comment.
yeah, we
Just
do need to get more power in this room. There's no doubt about that.
power, but
Right.
as just minimal what we need to get by until we decide, because we haven't even decided how we're going to revamp this room, and
So those three things, and then I would like to also have that revamping of this room a part of this package as well, because we do need to take care of these. So those are the four things that I'm hearing you say. Arlen, I'm not sure I can do anything about the board members and their interpretation of the documents, whether they're on paper or in a software program. I can't fix that. I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, can I just comment on the hardware? Sorry. I appreciate the advice and the guidance to come back with a full package, having been in your position, that's wholly appropriate. I just want to make sure, and ever since I've gotten here, Wendy was my mentor coming in. I've loved working with Wendy. You've made a great choice as a county administrator. But my next go-to person has been Greg. Greg and I have been working closely on lots of projects. And I just want to know that you're giving us clear direction that you as a board are very interested in this. We simply need to pull all the financials together to move forward. That yes, this is something we're taking seriously because we all have other things to work on. And I just want to make sure that when I ask Zach to put this as a priority on his homework list and my homework list, that we're going to move forward with something, some version of it, if we package it right for you.
I would agree
think
with
that's-
that because we don't want to invest staff resources in something that you're not interested in doing. So I guess I would like to, reiterate what Paul said.
And I think that's fair, completely fair. So I guess, from this committee, and of course, we're just the subset of the whole body. And whether it's appropriate to ask, maybe this is a question that should be taken to each standing committee, and maybe it already has, but I guess we could do kind of a straw poll here of what the flavor is from this committee. And I won't forget you wanted to make a comment, Arlen, but let's Arlen make a comment, and then let's go around the room and all the committee members have a comment, and maybe we can get that direction.
My concern is still the same, that it got to be part of a system. We got to train the board members who are scared of computers. We got to figure out what they want and things like that. Because we bought them today and could spend a significant amount of money, and nobody uses them, or makes the system more complicated. So 10 people use it out of half. It doesn't do any good. So I think
Okay, I think that's a good point. But Arlen, I guess, would you be in favor of directing staff to move forward to putting together a package together? Okay, we have a no.
Jim, I think it's the future of where we're going. We're certainly gonna have people on Zoom. We have to improve. I don't wanna make Maryland seem older than we are, but we both were on the board, and John was, when these microphones came in, and this was a great improvement over what we had. It's the next step moving forward. The one concern I have is I think it's a great program. I think we need to move forward. But attached to that is the safety, if you will, of the computers. You know, the sheriff has computers in his squad cars, and we voted to give him hard book, wasn't it? The better computer, so if it was dropped, it wasn't broken. Now, I don't think board members are gonna beat them up like happens in law enforcement, but what if that computer gets broken? Who's responsible for it? I think we need to have that policy as we do. That's not necessarily. what you
Agreed.
guys right
No, I
now.
agree that we need to address that.
And we need to have the program, so I'm in favor of it. But the second step would be having the policy.
Sure. Real quick on that, typically in the government, and Charlie can chime in, is if you're using a piece of property that's been duly authorized to be issued to you in the course of your duties, whether you're elected or paid, it's the county's responsibility to, pick up the tab for that, unless there's a history of irresponsible use, like throwing it up in the air in celebration of a vote or something and having it come down and break.
I understand that, Paul, but I mean, just to the point that the sheriff, I think, was shocked when we said spend more money to buy better computers. Is that correct, John? And we went with a tough book so that if like I say, they're used much rougher in law enforcement than we would be, but maybe we need to look at that also.
Okay. Kitson is a yes. Mimini,
Yes. Yeah.
do you have any further comments?
No, for Paul, the Wi-Fi issue. There's a lot of companies that have issues with Wi-Fi's. When they use government or company laptops, they go into my building and they use our Wi-Fi. Well, we have open ports, and you know what they are. Somebody can tap into those and steal all that information.
I've been
I just wanna
addressing
make sure
that.
that we-
That's been an ongoing security. It's part of my security plan here.
Yeah.
And in this building, we've actually, Jack and I and Jonathan have been working on locking it down. So it's been locked down where we could create a channel for you to, and you wouldn't even have access to anything other than the internet for this porter or the audience would. Connect to Zoom. One of the solutions for your meetings for hearing impaired people would be having them use their own device or something in the back, in the gallery with headphones, so they could just hear it directly rather than rely on the microphones. But that said, in addition to that, there's some finalization to the Wi-Fi upgrade here, but I just tested it when I was in the back. The Wi-Fi here is sufficient to move forward with this project now. So, and we can.
Thank you. That
we
was
can
one
secure
also
it.
one of my questions.
Should the Wi-Fi at our own personal spaces that we choose to use this, right? Because we said we can take these home. So if I take it in my house, my Wi-Fi is not secured.
Well,
That's what I
we
worry
could
about.
secure, I mean, we could encourage you to secure Wi-Fi, or we could create the encryption to, there is going to have some basic encryption. If you want, then there's VPN software to make it even more secure. But to the person who voted, or anybody that's considering voting, like, no, don't move ahead with this in terms of the cost. One of the things to simplify the security would be, one of the options might be that Wendy and I come to you with one version of the package that says, we're going to get tablets that only stay here. We'll handle the charging, we'll handle the prep. You're going to use them to go through the documents here and do your voting here. And then if you want to download it or do anything else off of your own network or something with your own device, go at it. Is that my recommendation? Probably not. But as a responsible person, I would offer that to you as kind of a low end, a low end solution. And that would kind of address the security issue with a county issued piece of equipment on your network. Then you're only exposing your own network to your own device, to your own, maybe insecure public network and the like. But the connection between any of these devices and your site is going to be a secure, what they call HTTPS network. If you want more security because you're feeling that there's confidential documents or something, we can take a look at solutions for that. And those would be what they call a virtual private network or VPN software. So
Okay, I know we can This is great discussion
I know.
and necessary discussion. I appreciate it, Paul, but we are really up against the clock. So Mr. Forrester.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a week, no, and, I mean, a week, yes, excuse me. I'm just afraid we're gonna spend his money like we have on numerous things throughout this county. And like you said, they're gonna sit there. A year or two, there they sit. Well, we should have done this. Well, we should have done that. That's my greatest concern. The other thing is, real quick, I don't know if anyone's looked. Charlie, yeah, you're still in here. I know, township business, FOIA, you use your own personal device, be it your phone.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up when Jim was mentioning using your own device.
Yeah, they could be confiscated, and
Yeah.
held up.
There's a
lawsuit.
problem there.
So that is the one advantage to having these.
Yep.
They're the counties. You don't have to worry about your personal computer at home with all of your records and all of your business being in the courts, held up.
No, that's a really
That's-
very, very good point.
So that's, for a minimal, if we're gonna do this, we're almost gonna, it's as far as, like I said, if you want to use your own, I have. And I quit a couple of years ago. I said, hey, I'm not taking this chance. We just bought a new computer. I'm not gonna spend that kind of money and have it possibly confiscated.
And a step beyond that too, it may have been something that was mentioned before, and I think something Paul probably was looking at is, I think every board member should have their own specific countyoflee.org email address, because when things are coming through, if you're using your own personal email address for county business, all that stuff's coming out too.
Ditto. Yep. No, everybody makes a good point. Okay, so a week, yes, it's still yes.
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Yeah, I guess I'm a weak yes too, if that's a thing, but,
Leaning.
well, I mean, I think that it's something that, we just discussed at the ARPA meeting. It was on the radar screen of a lot of board members. I think that it's something that's, everybody seems to be behind. The issue that I have will be the ongoing cost, 5-10 years down the road with, an upgrade of the, handheld devices or whatever, what the cost is going to be in there. So there's going to be some ongoing costs that I think we all need to be aware of and how that's going to affect us going forward. So a week, yes, once we find out the total bill and what we're looking at for down the road. So, yeah.
No, Sheila is a yes.
I would say yes in a week, yes.
That's the thing.
Now that it is a thing.
It became a thing. See, Doug, you started something. All right, actually, so there's your direction.
I've got the direction. Thank you.
All right, I
appreciate it.
appreciate that. So we can take the where'd my thing go? So point H, instead of being an action, we'll make that information, and you have your marching orders to what you come back with, hopefully next month. Guys, do you
Yep,
think
I'll-
you can get this back to us next month?
Yep, that would be my goal.
Yep.
Thank you.
That would be great. Appreciate that. Okay, we've got GIS. Where are you going? Oh, this isn't yours, Paul.
Sorry.
GIS staff replacement hire discussion only. Wendy.
Yeah, so at this point, as you know, we are down one person in the GIS department, and Carmen and Jennifer and I met last Friday briefly to talk about what our options are. And to be honest with you, there's some things we want to consider, and we want to be prudent and methodical about considering it. So we're not ready to just run right out and post for a position. In the interim, though, excuse me, there are serious concerns that one person can keep up with the two-man job that we had before. So what we're looking to do is to have some high level, when we have a critical need, consulting on a temporary basis to get us through this period of time until we do get someone hired. While, as I said, we're not looking to hire somebody immediately because we want to look at the structure of the GIS department and how it's set up. I've talked to Paul about the IT world. We've got some things to talk through. So in the meantime, I'd like to consider a consulting agreement. Now on your agenda, it's just a discussion item because I didn't get it to, this all came up very last minute. It is an action item on the executive committee, and I will be asking them for essentially the okey dokey to sign this temporary consulting agreement with a company that can give us that support in the interim. I do believe that was sent out to everybody, but I can't remember for sure. So if that looks familiar, if you got a copy of that.
And essentially that on page 4, this would be sort of like what we use Citrix for. So other than this is on an as needed basis and we call on the person, but our cost is $175 and that's all inclusive of the services we require for this.
Correct. And so there is no like monthly standard fee, whether we use them or not. There's no sign up fee. The only fee is $175 per hour as needed for the period of time we need them. We can tie it off at any time we're ready.
Liam?
This is a long shot, but will this be able to substitute that position or no?
I don't think on a long-term basis, there is enough workload here. This is a short term to try and support Carmen, to get her through this period of time when she's only one human being. She can't do the job of two, so.
You guys have an anticipated or a thought of how much you would use this service? I mean, any idea, shot in the dark? I understand it's a tough question, but
yeah,
just for this committee to kind of have an idea of, $175 an hour, it can pile up pretty quick. So 10 hours.
I can't say. I will just remind you, there's a couple big projects that are being managed right now by the GIS department, one of which is the 911 conversion project that you've been hearing Shelley talk about now for a year. They're in the midst of that. And so that's a critical need. And also there is Nancy has mentioned the election department is working through the redistricting, which was involving the GIS department in terms of, for example, just redistricting your county board districts based on the census. So there's some things going on. How much we may need them, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Jennifer or Carmen, though. That's just my thoughts.
Okay, so, but you have this as an action item on executive?
I do. For your
So really, it's not necessary for us to make.
No, I just wanted you to be aware of it because it's a financial, obviously we're not expending that salary for that person that's not here right now. So it would be within the budget for this year. So
Sure.
It's not going to be outside the budget. Sorry, Tom, I should have said that right out of the gate, shouldn't I?
And I was just about ready to ask for that question, right? And I was going right to you, Mr. Kitson. Any other questions from this committee? Okay, hearing none.
Thank you.
We'll deal with it in executive. Okay.
Okay, so for Zach's sake, we just pause the Zoom, right? And shut off the mic.
Yes,
And when he comes
because we have to come back out and do adjourn.
as long as nobody can hear anything that's going on.
No, shut off the live stream. Disable, because you can just disable the video, correct?